Is this any better?
Nope.
Oh, shoot.
It's okay. I'll do all the talking. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, okay, well, I'll just, I'll make the introduction anyway.
Cool.
You know what? Let's get going. First of all, thanks, Nadine. Nadine is a current, Nadine VandenHeuval, hopefully I pronounced that right, is a current
Got it.
mastermind member. She's the founder and CEO of NB Fitness Conditioning. She's got over 12 years experience in health and fitness. She's a longtime FBBC owner, multi-location owner in Canada, going on 9 years with over 500 clients. She's an award-winning trainer, speaker, author. I think there's too much for me to list here. So it seems like all she does is win awards for in the fitness business. But she put on a presentation for this Profit First system based on a book that I've read, and I think some of you have read too. And I'd like her to go through how she ultimately got into Profit First and what struggles she had before and how it literally changed her business and how it was a game changer for her. So Nadine, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Happy Saturday. I hope you guys all have great weather. It is beautiful fall here in Canada, and it's a warm day, according to the Canadians anyways. So as Quan had said, I am a mastermind member as well as a multi-location owner. I'm one of the original owners. I've been part of FitBody since December 2010. So I've been around the block through the ups and downs of the franchise, and I am more than happy to help you guys in any way that I can here. You guys can all hear me? Put your thumbs up. Perfect. Awesome. Great. So I just attached 2 different files in the chat box. You guys could go over there and check that out. These are the files that I actually shared with my mastermind group as well. And then I'm going to just head on over to my PowerPoint here so you guys can see that. So I'm just going to start here. Can you guys all see the PowerPoint? Is that good? Thumbs up. Awesome. Okay, so don't get distracted by the 2 files that I just sent you. I'll get to it, but I just wanted to point out where they were. So it gives you a second. If you guys are on audio and not by your computer, make sure that you guys get that, or maybe Quan can make sure that he passes that on to anyone that couldn't get on the call. So let me tell you a little bit about what Profit First is. So obviously it is a book, and I'll tell you about the story as to why I got into Profit First. So basically my objective today is to explain my story of how I implemented the Profit First system in an effort to get your ass to do it, to increase your profit and transform your business, okay? So you guys have to remember, since I've been a FitBody owner for quite some time, and if you've been in business at all, you have to think about why we're in business. Yes, we are here to change lives and impact lives and help people get healthier. But ultimately, we need to make sure that we're feeding our family. We need to make sure that we are profiting. Otherwise, we're just going to get burnt out, okay? So that's really what I want to hit home to today. Over the years of being a mastermind member, and as Bedros has evolved and grown as well with the franchise, it kind of started with leads marketing, all the top things in regards to that, which is absolutely great. But I wasn't really getting information or education on how to properly run a business. Now, if you came from a business background, then great, you're probably ahead of me in that respects. But I didn't know much about how to properly manage my money as a business. And that's what I really want to help with you guys, because over the years of being a masterminder, I would be constantly going, hey guys, how are your profit margins? And no one seemed to really kind of give me a clear picture of how profitable a FitBody bootcamp could really be. And me being in Canada, obviously it's going to be slightly different. We have different rules and regulations and taxes, but at the end of the day, it's still about how can we make sure that we pocket as much money as we can to make it worthwhile for what we're doing. So money is the foundation. I focus completely on how to grow the business. And if you haven't opened your doors yet, you guys are just getting so ahead of the game and learning from my 9 years of mistakes. So lucky. But the main thing is that money is the foundation. I focus completely on how to grow the business, marketing, culture, leadership. We have lots of balls to juggle in the air as a business owner. My revenue blew up the first year. It was just absolutely growing, 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 and then it plateaued a bit. And I even see this with some of the mastermind owners right now, the first year, and then they're kind of starting to see people cancel after the first year, your attrition rate and stuff like that. So if you don't know what attrition rate is, that's the amount of percentage of people that are canceling out of memberships on a yearly basis or a monthly basis. But my expenses didn't plateau. So as you know, 8 out of 10 businesses fail. The number one reason they fail is because of lack of profitability. So are you surprised? Probably not. You've probably already heard these stats. So for years, a little bit about my story. I would go to conferences, masterminds, and ask my colleagues about their profits. How profitable is your FBBC? It was like the one thing that no one ever talked about, as I kind of mentioned already and shed some light on. We talked about getting more clients, and which, of course, don't get me wrong, that's super important. But I pulled Bedros aside and I said, I don't really know what's going on, if it's just me. I kind of felt like, embarrassed for asking, I don't really know why I'm not profiting or if I'm doing something wrong. So I really had a great long conversation with Bedros. He got on the phone with me, and we really chatted it out. And I felt like I wasn't really getting my shit together. So Mike, the author of Profit First, talks about in his books entrepreneurs who are afraid to tell the truth about their financials. And I'm completely, transparent and open to talking about it, because that's why we are a part of a franchise like FitBody, is allowing you to network with other owners, to share your struggles, to share things that are working. So I can't stress that enough. It's you guys as owners, don't suffer in silence. Ask for help, okay? And that's what I did. And this is what has been over the past year in the making with working with Profit First in the system. And that's why I want to be able to take this time on a Saturday morning to be able to provide you guys with this value in this thing of me making mistakes. All right. So traditional accounting is sales subtract expenses equals profit. So you sell as much as you can, then pay your bills with whatever is left over, and that's your profit. Except there was never anything left over. I literally just got home from the mastermind, and I was chatting with an owner even after my 2 presentations on Profit First, and she had said that she's not making any profit, so she can't implement the Profit First system. And I'm just like, no, that's not it. So please remember that just because you aren't necessarily making a profit, maybe you're not even open yet, please know that you can implement this system. Basically, my business was a cash eating monster. And honestly, I thought it was the FBBC model, which is why I talked to Bedros, and he suggested this book. So let me tell you now the stats, because I think stats are super important for you to kind of see that this stuff actually does work. So I've been doing this for just over a year now, this system, and I've been working with my accountant on this. And basically, Bedros had told me to read it, and then I got the copy of it, gave it to my accountant. I said, you need to read this. This is what I'm implementing. That's literally what I did. And so she's a super a big keener like myself, and she was all over it. So you got to make sure that your accountant understands what you're about to do, because it's not your standard accounting. So some accountants might be kind of against it. So make sure that your accountant's on board. Here's my summary in my first year. My revenue for this year is on trend to increase by 20% from last year. Profit is on trend to increase by 40%. Revenue for this year is on trend to increase by 22% from 2 years ago. Profit is on trend to increase 145% from 2 years ago. All right. This shows improved efficiency in the company. Taxes are being paid on time as they are due, and company has a tax reserve in the bank. Average cash balance has increased 72%, and that is after paying $38,000 of renos. So we had to do the 4.0 renovation, so that's what that was for. My pay has almost doubled, which is great, and is on trend to increase by 190% from last year. And this is just the beginning. I haven't hardly even made a lot of changes in cutting expenses. I just wanted to implement the system. So think about your clients. You do your baseline numbers, your baseline measurements the second that they walk through the door. Why? Because we need to know where you're at day one before we can make any changes. We need to see where you're at, okay? So that is the first step. So before I go into implementing the system, I want to take this moment if anyone has any questions. No, we're good? Everyone's good? Okay, awesome. Perfect. Okay, so I've tried to break down this book and the system as easy as possible. And even after doing this presentation twice now, you guys get the benefit of just me kind of making it a bit more clear each time I present it, because I get different questions or people kind of get stuck, and I don't want you guys to get stuck. So I know from some feedback from some of the mastermind owners that they had said that they read it. Put up your hand if you've read it. Has anyone read it? Okay, awesome. Okay, cool. There's been a few people, which is great. For those of you that I can see your faces anyways. If you've read it, great. A lot of people kind of got stuck on the implementation, and I get it. You read a book and then it goes on your shelf and then you don't actually implement some things. I've been there, done that. So I had to read it a good, probably, I swear, 10 times to actually implement the steps. So I don't want you guys to get stuck in some of the small details. So anyways, let's just kind of discuss how to actually get it started. So we're going to set up 5 bank accounts. Now in the book, Mike talks about actually setting up 7. I set up 5, and I'll tell you why. The 5 envelopes or bank accounts are your profit account, your income account, your owner's compensation, your tax account, and your operating expenses account, also known as OpEx. You also have optional 2 in a different bank savings accounts, which is going to be profit and tax. So, Kwan, do we have anyone that has more than one location in this this webinar or this Zoom call? Everyone's just got one location?
Dave Smith?
We have multi-location owners?
Yeah, Dave Smith.
Okay.
Just put his hand
We
up.
will.
Okay, awesome. Okay, cool, thank you. So let me go into a question I actually got this past week is if you have more than one location and if your banking is separate, so I don't really know if some people might have their 2 location money going into one bank account and then you kind of pay your bills from there. Then you only need the 5 accounts. If you have your location A, let's say, going into all of that money going into one bank account, and you have location B all going into separate, that means you need 5 bank accounts per location then. Is that clear? That was a good question that I got this week. So yes, it's going to cost you a little bit of money to open up these additional 4 accounts, because I assume, and I shouldn't assume, but that most people have 1 bank account per 1 location. So if that's the case, you need to open up 4 additional ones. Your current bank account will be your operating expenses. So I'll say that again. Your current account that you have with money going in and out right now will be your OpEx account. So you just have to change the name on your online banking to OpEx, just so it's clear. I do believe that most banks nowadays let you change the title of the account. Why do you do that? Because things are already happening in that account. Basically, all your money, your automatic payments, and stuff like that is already happening in that account. So just to save you a lot of time of having to contact all those people to say, hey, I'd like you to take money out of this account now instead. So that OpEx is your operating expenses, which is your current bank account. Next up, you're going to open up 4 other accounts, which are your profits, your income, your owner's compensation, and your tax. So he talks about in the book of opening 2 additional accounts that are untouchable, essentially, in a different bank. So I felt I had the control of not touching that account because I had such a difficult time of opening up 2 different accounts in a different bank, because each time I not only had to pay for those accounts, obviously, which is completely fine with me because of the amount of money that I've been able to collect and save, and as you can see from my stats. But I had to pay like a ridiculous amount of money to transfer from one bank account to another bank account each time I transferred. And it was just a pain in the ass. So I just thought, you know what, let me test it out for 3 months. And if you don't tap into those accounts, if they're in your viewing, then cool, you have the control. If you're tapping into it, then you have to move it into a different bank. Is that clear as to why I did that? Okay, cool. So again, follow the process in the book by opening up those 2 different accounts in a different bank if you don't feel that you have that self-control. And it will still be worth that whatever dollar amount that you are getting charged because of the amount of money that I've been able to save and make in my pocket. Okay, so that is your first step. Don't get stuck here. Please make an appointment with your bank right now and get these set up. Now, my bank had said, well, why do you want to do this? Like, don't ask questions. I pay you a lot of money. Just open up the accounts. Thank you. Okay, the current allocation percentages. So now you have to find out essentially your current baseline numbers, which is what we do with our clients. So you're going to need to find out 5 numbers. Now you can't copy mine, and I'll explain to you. I talked to my accountant before getting on this call, before getting on the call with the mastermind group, actually, which I did a couple months ago, is that I'd love to share my numbers with you. But the problem is that depending on how much you're taking home, you might be taking home more than what I was when I first started the system. So I don't want to give you a pay cut. And if I'm taking home significantly more than what you're taking right now, it's going to throw off your business financials. So you cannot copy mine. Trust me, I've already provided and gifted you with the chart that my accountant created for me, which is great, but you have to change your percentages, okay? So I'm going to go over how to figure out these 5 numbers before you can get started. So you should have already created or opened up those 5 or those additional 4 bank accounts. That's your first step. That should be done next week. All right. And Kwan's going to hold you accountable, right, Kwan? And then we're going to find out the baseline numbers. Okay. So the first number is revenue. What was your revenue for last year? Last 12 months or accounting year? Okay, that's pretty clear, I think. Now let's figure out your second number. Profit. Do you currently have a profit account? Hey, Kwan, can you turn your mic off? I'm just getting a little feedback, thank you. Do you currently have a profit account, which is a holding bank account, not your operating expenses? Separate than pay for your owner. Okay, this is set aside for emergencies and money being paid to the owner for bonus or pleasure. Okay, so fun activities. Question you may ask, what is the difference between owner's comp and profit? Owner's comp is you getting paid like an employee. Profit is bonus cash for taking the risk of running the company. How much profit did you have last year? Not according to your income statement or P&L, because usually accountants kind of make that P&L so that you're not profiting at all, so you don't have to pay as much taxes. That's at least how we do it in Canada. All right. This is in-bank return profit. So I didn't have this. So don't feel bad or feel embarrassed or feel that you need to make up a number. So please note that many people, from what I've asked anyways, many of the owners didn't have this. Okay. Just getting a couple questions here. So I just want to take a look at those. Okay, so Sarah had asked, should the accounts be business accounts with business names? So yes, they should be in your business. So like I have my personal bank accounts, like my personal stuff, and then my business bank account. So when you log into your online banking, you should be able to see it, all 5 accounts right in front of you within your business, I guess, incorporated or whatever you guys call it in the States. And then Sarah had asked the owner's comp account. Could it be a regular personal account, or is it tied to the business for accounting purposes? Yes, so you should be able to see it all. This is like, you have your business account, and then these are all kind of like your folders. Think of an envelope system. So you should be able to basically, and I'll explain how you transfer money 2 times a month. And this answer might actually come about really shortly, but basically all your money gets dumped into one envelope, and then you pass it through the different envelopes twice a month. So you need to make that process as easy as possible for you. Otherwise it's a pain in the ass. Okay, so I'll get back. Sarah, if that's not clear, once I'm done, then let me know. Okay, so we have our profit account. So we talked about that. So if you don't have this, then start at 1%. Okay, which I think from my, and I'm not quite sure, but from my kind of discussion with most owners, I feel like that's going to be 1%, and that's cool. Okay. Number 3, your owner's compensation. How much did the business pay you for the work you did last year? How do you find this number out? Ask your bookkeeper or accountant. That's your first option. They should be able to tell you very quickly. Was it 10% of your number 1 question, which your number 1 question was revenue, right? Was it, if that is the case, then I want you to add 1%. Is it way less, way more? Adjust it and add 1%. If bookkeeper or accountant cannot help you with this number, which I think that's why you pay them, then count up your amount in your account of how much the business paid you for your work that you did in the last 12 months or last year or whatever. So what is that number? What percent is that based off your last year's revenue? So essentially, what did you get paid? Pretty clear, right? So that's your owner's compensation. Number 4, your tax. How much was your company required to pay to your tax, personal? So my business pays for my personal tax as well as my company tax, okay? So in Canada, we have income tax as well as sales tax, okay? So my sales tax is 13%, and income tax is basically, we have to actually prepay it. And I'm not sure if that's the same in Canada, so we have to pay that monthly. All right, so be mindful. Some of you may still be owing this. So let me tell you that every quarter when we had to pay sales tax, I was like, shit, I don't have this money. Where am I going to get it? Should I do a sale? Damn it. So basically what we're doing is allowing ourselves to better plan our finances so that we don't have to stress, okay? Basically what we're asking is, were you paying your taxes on time? All right, and were you saving it so you didn't have stress to have to pull it from different areas? Look through your company books, ask your bookkeeper what percent of your tax of your revenue. That's how you find out that percentage. Okay, there's a couple more questions, but I'm almost done the numbers here, and then we'll kind of break down how I do it 2 times a month, and we'll go into the questions. And the fifth account is your operating expenses. Essentially, this percentage is whatever's left over after you figure out all those other numbers. Okay, so operating expenses is your expenses, whatever is left over. So know that the system of profit first allows you not to just take what's left over after all the expenses. You're getting paid first, okay, so that you always know that you're going to be able to feed your family, okay? So that's why I really like the system, is that even when you have, some struggles or whatever with your finances, that you're getting that money, okay? So I'm going to show you how I've created my system, and that is going to be, I'm just going to switch over my systems here. Okay, so this is the Google Doc. Okay, do you guys see that? Thumbs up if you see my Google Drive doc. Okay, cool. So this is what my accountant and I have geeked out on and created, and I really hope that you guys, so please note, I shared this with you. Please don't mess up the percentages. It says here, please just go up to File and go to Make a Copy, and then you guys can use this for yourself. I literally helped an owner with this last week at the mastermind group. Once you find out your percentages, then you can just adjust them and still use this if this works for you. It's very easy for me to work with, and I'm all about like super efficient stuff because I have enough shit on my plate, okay? So these are like my legit numbers. And so, I'm being fully transparent, but that's only because you guys can see like where I started. So my operating expenses were 77% when I first started. So these are the baseline numbers that I started with, okay? The 77, 12, 2, 9, and then the total is obviously has to equal 100%. Okay, so here I started back in 2018. So what I do on the 10th and the 25th. So he says in the book, do it 2 times a month, not bi-weekly, 2 times a month. So I know on the 10th morning of the month and the 25th, I get super excited. Okay, this is like a really exciting time for me because I can kind of see my growth and me managing my money a lot better, because if I want to buy a bigger purchase, then I tell them, hey, I wait until these times when I make sure that I'm not just going into debt nonstop. So I log into my banking and I look at how much money I have in my income account. So what you need to do when you open up your bank account is you need to tell Club Ready, Stripe, all the other people that are paying you money, the affiliates or whatever things, they now need to be paying you into your income account. So that is a change that you will need to make, okay, guys? Because they're probably paying you into your OpEx account. So you need to make sure that whatever's in your income account, this is the number that's in my income account on the 10th of the month. So I'll show you here. I'm just going to zoom down here. So let's say I'm going to log in and it's the 25th today, okay? But it's not quite, but on the 25th, this is what I'm going to do. Let's say that I have $35,000, not 350, I wish. $35,000. Did you see how the math just kicked out like that? Pretty cool, right? So now what I'm going to do is transfer, I'm still logged into my online banking. I'm going to transfer basically $4,500 to my owner's comp account from my income. I'm going to transfer $2,800 from my income to my profit account. I'm going to transfer $6,475 into my tax account. That's from my income. And I'm going to transfer $21,000-ish into my operating expenses account. So my goal as a FitBody owner implementing this system, I'm really curious to know what percentages, what you guys get to and where you kind of find that sticking point. Because I think that's really neat to pass on and share with Bedros and Bryce and Matt as to how profitable FitBody Bootcamp as franchises could get, because that's, pretty neat to see, okay? Because I know I've asked those questions as guys, like, how much is your rent? How much are your utilities? What's my payroll percent should be at, so that I can kind of know, should I be adding more staff? Can I afford more staff before getting to the point that I have to end up firing staff because I couldn't afford it? So that's really neat to be able to just throw that number in. It's super user friendly. And then as you can kind of see, my accountant kind of adds, or not, sorry, what we created when we created this Google Drive document is, you can see these percentages have changed. So my OpEx started when we first started it. These were my baseline numbers that I asked you guys to create. And so then I've changed them from 77% to 74% every quarter here. And my tax went up to 13%. My profit went from 2 to 3%. My owner's comp went from 9 to 10%, and it always still obviously has to equal 100%. So you can kind of see in these numbers. So I'm just going to stop sharing this and then go back to my PowerPoint. So this is the chart here. This is a start small profit first example that I literally just took from the book. Okay, so he says if you're not day 0 profiting at all, then your day 1 is to do 1%. Okay, this is just a guideline. If your owner's comp, works out to be 17%, then bump it up by 1%. If your tax is currently at roughly 5%, bump it up to 6%. If your operating expenses was 78%, bump it down to, bump it down from 78 to 75. Okay, so you're paying yourself, or you're transferring that money twice a month, the 10th and the 25th, pay yourself and pay your bills. So don't forget that when you're transferring money on the 10th and the 25th as well, don't forget to pay off your credit cards, just to make sure that you're staying on top of your debt. Another question that I got this past week is, well, I'm in debt. I can't start this profit first system. And trust me, a 4.0 kicked my butt, getting new mats, doing a little bit of upgrades. And you can just expect that moving forward with FitBody as a franchise and as a business owner, gym owner, you're going to need to do upgrades. You need to make sure that we're an elite fitness facility, because that's why we're allowed to charge what we charge. So basically just knowing that you're kind of staying on top of that debt. And then at the end of every quarter, we actually take, and it talks about this in the book, but I don't want you guys to get confused in all the small details, is you actually take the majority of the money from your profit account and pay off your debt. So you are actually saving money up to pay that debt down, okay? So I covered that in my facts here. What if you're over 100% with your math? That means you're spending more than what you have and accumulating debt. Okay, so we're trying to help with that. Is when you take baseline numbers for your clients, right? It allows us to see where we're at, and then we can course correct as we go. That's the whole point of it. So don't not do it if you're over 100%. Okay, what's your next step? Only for those who have done the above steps. Then what you're going to do is every quarter you change the numbers, add 1% to profit, owner's comp, and tax, subtract 3% to OpEx. Another question that I had is, I'm not even open yet. This doesn't apply to me, not true. If I knew this from the beginning, I'd have a lot less stress and a ton more money. Another great thing that my Profit First professional, also my accountant, because I hired a Profit First professional, and literally on the way home from the mastermind this week, after presenting this presentation to the mastermind group, he had asked, do I need to hire a Profit First professional? And I said, if it was me, and I'm super Dutch, I would honestly try following the system that I've laid out for you. However, I'm one that I need someone to hold me accountable, so that's why I hired a Profit First professional. But I've done the work. I've paid someone a lot of money in order to create the system and break it down as easy as possible for you guys. And I assume that some of you guys, are just, starting up and maybe not have a lot of extra money for these things. Otherwise, you'd be in the mastermind, which you guys should be. Right, Kwan? Woo! Anyways, so this is a good way to get started and follow the process here, okay? Profit First allows you to be proactive. because what happens is when there's a crisis that happens, you start freaking out like, oh my gosh, how do I make payroll? Then we have this big sale. Okay, many of the owners that have been around for a while, this has been something that, oh, let's do a paid in full sale, or let's jump onto some sort of shiny object thing in order to get a quick cash bump in order to make that payroll or to pay for this or whatever. We don't want to do that, okay? It's going to screw up your EFT. And even as CJ, another really great owner, he's still struggling with, well, he had verbalized and expressed that he's still growing his EFT because he was the one that did all the paid in full sales. So we don't want to do that, all right? Systems in place to help us have more control. We have way less stress, and there's money in the bank for when we have tax time. So now that I've been implementing it for well over a year now, I'm going to kind of share with you my goals because I'm not done yet. There's still lots of work. Okay. And Matt Wilbur and I had a great conversation because he's implemented this as well. And after chatting with my accountant and my Profit First professional, what I want to do is actually create another account now that allows me to save up for big purchases. All right. Rather than just, thinking that I'll have money in the bank. So before I go into debt to purchase, like another in-body machine or like those fancy water fountain stations that are like $5,000 in Canada. I don't know. Maybe, I don't know why they cost so much. But anyways, a 4.0 upgrade. So what I want to do is create what Matt had said, he's calling it like a facility upgrade account. So that goes for your paint, your new mats, your whatever, your in-body machine, like $8,000 machine, whatever your big purchase is. How cool would it be to like hold myself back and be able to save that money up before purchasing it rather than going into debt. So I'm still paying off debt for 4.0. I know some other mastermind groups members are their goal is to have that paid off by the end of this year, and that's where I'm on track to. So then I can start saving up for new mats because I haven't upgraded my mats yet. Lower income months. So I don't know about you guys. For those of you that are open, August was one of our like highest hold percentage I've had in 9 years. And that affects my personal income. So I just got married in August and I like to obviously have money to pay for my wedding. And so anyways, so that's important to just kind of have in the back of your mind to keep that amount extra floating money for preparing for your worst months. It might be December, guys, and it might be August, it might be July, depending on where you live and stuff like that. So now my year 2 is really going line by line through every one of my expenses and cutting expenses. Just being aware though, what are the right expenses to cut and what are the wrong ones. So I'm really excited to dive into that a little bit more. Okay, so that, is what I have. So I'm going to go into your questions. And if you have any more, please don't hesitate. Okay. We have another question says, for owner's comp, what if we haven't paid ourselves yet? Is there a percentage like profit? That's a great question. Well, so what you need to do, here, let me just share this again. Sorry. Where's my PowerPoint? So these numbers are in order. So once you find out your revenue, okay, then we fill out our profit. Okay, so we need to do these in order. I should have clarified that, guys, okay? So these are strategically in order of finding out your numbers. So first your revenue, then your profits. So once you figured that out, then we have our owner's compensation and your tax. So if I'm understanding this correctly, you're not taking home a paycheck at all. Is that correct? Okay. That's a good question. I'm going to have to figure that out. I don't know that answer. And I feel like that should be an easy answer, but it's not coming to me right now. So we have revenue. So that's your total amount of dollars, and your profit, which you'll start at 1%, and your owner's comp. Is there a starting number? I'm sure it talks about this in the book. Sorry, that hasn't been the case for me. So it might dive into that, but I can definitely ask my profit first professional, and I can pass that on to you. Message me on Facebook, and then I can have that contact information for you. Okay. My name on Facebook is Nadine VandenHeuval, so it's pretty easy to find.
Cool.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Other questions?
Nadine, let me throw some questions in there if nobody else has any.
Cool.
There was a question about whether they can use a personal account for their owner's comp. I can kind of see why that might be a problem. And can you kind of go over why there should be a distinction between the owner's comp account underneath your income account versus just using your personal account?
Yeah, so basically, there was this image that I shared here. When you have your income account, can you guys all see me typing? Okay, so this has your total amount of money that you have, and it's all the Club Ready and Stripe and whatever income that you're getting from the business. It's automatically going. So that's your remits or whatever other money. So what I like to see is all my bank accounts that we've created. I like to see all of these in front of me, okay? And then when I have my OpEx, my owner's comp, then I transfer my owner's comp from this account over into my personal banking account. I think that if you were to ask your bank account or your accountant, they're probably going to want to have all those numbers like there in one business account. I would assume. I feel that my accountant would say, keep all your business monies all like in one sector, and then transfer that money from your owner's comp account to your personal account on the 10th and 25th. I think that does, Juan, is that clear?
Yeah, I think that answers the question for me. I think like having your personal account as the owner's comp account, it brings into elements of all the other things that you are paying for, money that are possibly coming into your personal account from other sources too.
Yeah.
Like your owner's comp account should have, just money flowing from one account and then flowing out to one account.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's just a constant flow of money going into the income, and then it transfers down to the other ones.
So I guess I asked the question because I was thinking, I already have a personal bank account. So I get this because this makes it clean and easy for the accountant. But I'm thinking if I already have a personal account that I already pay all my, my mortgage or my utilities, my personal stuff, like I would probably want my payment coming directly to that account, like if my owner's comp, my salary or whatever. So that's what I was wondering, because I don't use the same bank as we've opened up our accounts for the business. I mean, it's not an issue. I just wondered if there's a problem. And I see how it's a lot cleaner if you do it like this. It makes more sense. But then I just have to maybe close this other account or decide if I want to, how I want to transfer it over to myself somewhere else. Because then I have to, everything I pay, all my auto bills for personal. So that's all.
Yeah, and I get what you're doing because I have the exact same. So my business all has the different envelopes, which are in front of you right now. And then I transfer this owner's comp into my personal account, which is where like the mortgage comes out of and all my utilities. And actually the book lists that you're technically, which I don't do yet, I'm actually supposed to pay myself the same amount no matter if the business is doing really, really well or not doing well, because I just got married and I wanted to take all the money. So anyways, so that's why I understand what you're saying. And if there are different banks, it's one extra step, but you need to kind of see it all in front of you. for quick transferring of the envelope system, and then when you move your owner's comp money to your personal account. That's kind of like your pay.
Thank you.
Nadine,
Oh, somebody else has a question then.
go ahead, Sarah.
Okay, sorry. I just had a real quick question. I think a lot of the new owners anyway we're opening in the red. The first month, I don't even know if we'll hit, all of our operating expenses. I don't know how much everything is going to cost yet, like our utilities, and I don't know, it'll probably take a few months to kind of figure all that out. And so I kind of have a worksheet of what I think we're going to be, what things we're going to be paying, but I didn't know if you had something, or if somebody at FEBC had kind of an example of, we're going to need payroll, you're going to need utilities, rent, just like an idea, so we're not like, oh, I didn't even think we're going to have that. So do you have anything like that, or can you recommend anything?
I'm wondering if the book has an example of like a new business kind of like starting point. That's a really good question. And I wish that I was a bit more prepared. Like I took this presentation based off of the mastermind group, which obviously most have kind of been open and have some money. And let me open up my Google sheet here. Because you're probably going to have super high operating expenses. So you'll probably start at like super high percents. And you'll start at 1% for the profit. And just have to play with these numbers for the first little bit. And like they can obviously be adjusted if you need. You'll find your sweet spot. Like a couple of the times, to be truthfully honest, like I went in the negative and then I'm like, oh shoot, with my banking account, because I'm like, oh, there's kind of like been my sweet spot for where we're at for our expenses. And then we had to start cutting some, and then we were clear and good. But that's part of the kind of the learning curve of it. But kind of a starting point, I don't have something created for that, but I think that would be a great question for our Profit First professional, which I have access to, so I can definitely ask and pass that on to you, because that's the best I have for you right now.
Sorry, you're just wondering, like all the different types of expenses you might encounter. Is that what your question was, or you're talking about the percentages you should start out with? Because if we're talking about percentages, I think it's going to be different for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. So I really do want to think about what kind of things that I have to think of encountering, because we haven't opened our doors yet. And I anticipate our operating expenses, being so high for the first couple months. And it probably will be like a look back thing and a kicking yourself in the foot thing for the first couple months, just trying to figure out where we should be putting our money. But because I know the first thing is just paying the bills and paying the salaries, So.
Well, you could kind of see mine here. Like I'm at 77%, and if you just change this to 1% profit, like your operating expenses are going to be high. But remember also that I have a lot of staff. So payroll is consisting of operating expenses as well, right? So that gives you a little bit of a ballpark as to, I don't like to say a starting point, but you might just be taking less for your owner's comp and then add more for your operating expenses. I hate to say that, but you could play kind of around with that.
Yeah, you know what? I'll just throw something in there. Just like the book suggests, the very first thing you need to do is take out the profit. And that's why Nadine said set it at 1%.
Mm-hmm.
And for me too, without really knowing what I'm going to be profiting, I'm going to set it at a certain percentage. And I'm also going to set my owner's comp at a certain percentage. And then I'm going to have to engineer my expenses around that and allocate accordingly. Yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to say. Sorry.
Yeah, as long as you're doing that 1% to the side, and then you'll just kind of play around with it from there. But in terms of like kind of a guideline of what to expect, I think that FitBody as a franchise should probably have that laid out. Basically, your utilities, your payroll, any of the expenses in terms of your rent. Um, I don't all
Your
the other
internet,
things.
your
Yeah,
internet, your phones, your
Yeah.
signs.
all your utilities and
Yeah,
stuff.
we just
So.
opened 7 months ago, so we have all those your water fountains, your permits to build out, having the fire inspector come for $65 to just check that the fire extinguishers work.
Nadine, you may want to unshare your screen. We're still seeing your Facebook there.
Oh, that's cool. That's cool. I got nothing to share.
All right.
Nadine, I had a question.
For sure.
So you started saying that right now, the way things are operating, like we don't have Profit First clearly implemented. You said that what's happening right now in our banking is our OpEx account. That's our current account. So that's where our Club Ready is going, and that's linked to our bank account. Well, that's QuickBooks. That's a whole other can of worms, right?
So, can you say your question in a different way? Sorry, I'm not quite understanding.
Yeah, you had said that our OpEx is our current account.
Correct, yes.
Is our current account where everything is coming in and everything is going out as far as paying bills and
Yes.
paying. So I have to change that. We have to change that account to be the income account.
No. Okay, so let me break that down a little bit clearer for you guys. So your current account, the name of your current account will now be changed to OpEx. So everything is currently coming in and out of that current account.
Right. Okay.
Next step, after you've completed that, you need to contact the people that are currently giving you money and tell them what your new bank account information is for your new income account.
So we have to open the income account.
First,
We have to open our income account, right?
Yes.
And then contact Club Ready, Stripe, and say, now put the money into this account.
yes. Because it's less work for you to contact all the people that are taking money out of your account than to contact the 3 people or the 5 people that are putting money into your account.
I think what Nadine is saying is that this is a much easier transition. So you have this one account where everything's going in, but you also have all these vendors that you're paying who are on auto pay, FitPro Tracker, all these things are coming out of that same account. So instead of switching that to your income account, creating another OpEx account, where then now you have to change all the auto pay and payees through that. What she's saying is it's an easier transition to make that account the OpEx, create another account as your income, and then have all of your income being dumped into that income account. Does that
Got
make
it.
sense?
Got it. That's huge. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying. Cool.
Nadine, is there, I'm sure the book talks about it, but what's the logic behind the 10th and the 25th as your allocation dates?
You know what? It definitely says in the book, and I don't remember right now, but I know that a common question that I also had during the mastermind, and you probably remember this, Quan, is people would ask, can I do it on my remit days? And I never thought about that, but I feel like that's a lot of extra time that you're spending to transfer money more frequently. I know it only takes a few minutes, but a few minutes times 2 times a week over the course of the year is a lot of time. But hey, I just do it the 10th and the 25th because the book told me to, and I like to follow rules. But yes, it does explain why to do it, and I can't tell you right now.
Yeah, I think it makes sense to have set frequency rather than remit days. I mean, I don't think you want to be sitting there, every other day making these allocations. I think if you set, I think Tom Huff probably, I think he does it like once a month, but
yeah, you can't do that. I can look it up. I should probably know, Quan. I'm sorry, I don't, because it's been so long since I've thoroughly read the book again. But I can get back to you on that aspect, or someone could read the book as well.
well, yeah, everyone here is gonna read the book, right, guys? Yeah. All right. Atta girl. Well, and the other thing is, I think what we want to make clear is, once you on that allocation day, whatever it is, and all the money that's in your account, by doing these allocations, you're essentially zeroing out your income account. Am I correct in assuming that?
Yes. Good question.
Say that again, Quan?
So all the money, all the money gets dumped into your income account. So let's say this Sunday, you're going to do your allocations. At the end of making your allocations, your income is going to be zero because it's going to flow into all the other accounts.
Here, I'm going to give a visual of an image that I just shared on the mastermind group. Do you remember seeing that, Quan? Photos. Here, I'm going to, how do I share this again with you guys?
Yeah, and while you do that, it's funny, like when I read the book, it gave an example as to why this works and how all of us who probably have worked in the corporate environment and have had 401ks don't realize that Profit First is actually working in your life already. You just don't realize it, because when you have money going into 401k account, it's done automatically, invisibly, and your paycheck is your paycheck. And you live based on what your paycheck is, even though your money is going into the savings account, sort of away from you. And the funny thing about it is, if that 401k didn't exist and it went into your paycheck, you'd probably still be in the same situation. You'd probably be spending that money on something else. But because your paycheck is set at a certain level, you adjust your life accordingly, and suddenly you have savings in your 401k.
For sure. So this is an image that I found on Instagram. So this is the author of Profit First, and I just shared this with the mastermind group after my presentation at the mastermind group. This was a neat visual that I think might help. And so here's your income at the top. Can you guys see that okay? So here's the income. All the money is getting put into that income account, okay? So you're taking all money out of the income account on the 10th and the 25th. All money is coming out. Let me rephrase that. I leave $5 in there because I know it costs me $5 a month to keep that account. So just be mindful of your banking fees, because I totally didn't think of that at the beginning. So learn from my mistakes. I'm sure they told me and I didn't listen. I was just trying to implement it as soon as possible. So I take all the money out of income account except $5 or whatever your banking fees are, and put the percentage from profit into the owner's comp, into the tax, into the OpEx. And then I move my owner's comp money to my personal account, because my personal account is a different banking account or a different bank in respects to Sarah's question.
Yeah, that's a really great visual. I like it. And I think what this is suggesting is you make the allocations in that exact order. Am I right?
Yeah. Because the OpEx is only what's left over. You notice profit is first, right? So I had another question at the mastermind group that I just thought of. So let me just bring me back over to, I'm gonna have to do this again, sorry. That's not the
Nadine,
right.
I
Yeah.
have another question in the meantime.
Go ahead.
So taxes you said were personal tax, company tax, income tax, and sales tax. Employee tax is part of OpEx, right?
Yeah. So
Employee, like the workman's comp.
yeah, so that's a good question. Something I didn't think about because when I do my payroll, I actually, with the payroll system that I have, I pay it with each payroll run that I do. So that's part of your operating expenses.
Okay, great. Thank you.
For sure. I did want to just point out here a question that I had gotten this at the mastermind again, which I didn't cover. So notice here, can you guys all see my Google sheet? Perfect. Okay, so here's a quarter here from November to January. Okay, this was my first full quarter. So here you'll see 6,675 and 95 cents. So this was what was in my profit bank balance. So you see bank balance there? So at the end of every quarter, I take that profit amount and you see that it goes into the debt payment. So she's done this math for me. Half of it is staying in there. Half of it goes to my debt payment. And according to the book, I get like 1% of my profit until I get my debt down. So I got $33. It was ridiculous, but whatever, it's fine. That's the whole neat thing about that profit account. So that's what this line is about. So that's why that's like that. So every quarter you're going into that debt payment.
Was that your bank balance, Nadine?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay, cool.
I wanted to make it as real as possible for you guys just to kind of see. And I know I don't really care. You guys can see my numbers and I can be fully transparent. I'm here to help you guys. So
Sitting from here, they're nice numbers.
well, thank you. I'm always shooting for more, obviously.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Other questions, guys? We had one in the chat here.
How come your Excel file is like the reverse of everything that we're doing? Like, why is OpEx listed first?
Good question, actually. I don't want you to get confused about that. That's probably because I was going to say maybe that she had just put like I don't think we created that in any particular way. Like that, don't get thrown off by that. I think that she just had put maybe the biggest number at the top, but that's not the case because I have owner's comp. So no particular reasoning why. That's a good question. And I should probably change that, but it's been like that for a year. So I didn't even notice it, I guess.
That's fine. No, I'm just curious. It makes sense to have OpEx as top though, because that's
your biggest, heavier hitter, right?
Pretty much.
I'm going to write that down though. If I have to explain this or break it down to anyone else, that's a good question to maybe adjust, just so it's not confusing for people. What else do we got, Kwan?
Well, I don't know, guys. I mean, I don't have any other questions. I mean, I've read actually the audio book, and I think I should go out and get the physical book too. But the first thing I did was open up my accounts at TD. Oh, I do have an additional question. You know, you talked about 2 optional accounts at another bank, right?
Mm-hmm.
To move the tax and profit account away from you, and that's really just for the purposes of moving it away from of your reach, so you're not tempted to use that money.
Correct.
But you know, if your current bank has mechanisms in place where it makes it hard for you to get to that money in the first place, then maybe you don't need the optional accounts, or if you have the willpower.
Yeah, and that's what the book says as well, is, you know, you're supposed to do it in a different bank because it's that extra layer of untouchables. Because you physically have to, he says, go open up 2 accounts that you cannot even access online banking. You physically have to go into that bank account to get the money to pay your taxes or to whatever the case may be. And I had a hard time kind of wrapping my head around, like, do I really need to go to this extent? And you should probably, you know, follow the book to a T. But my goal here today is to just get you guys started and sharing my story of how successful it's been for me. And if that means that you create another business account within the same bank that's untouchable, like, you cannot have access to online banking if you're going to follow everything to a T. Because if you're in a pinch and if you're like, shit, I have to pay for this payroll, and if you tap into that tax account, you're going to be screwed. All right. And that's the whole point of it, is that it's supposed to be untouchable. So if you start tapping into it, you need to follow the book to a T and open up 2 separate accounts in a different bank.
I think the other thing that I've come to realize from reading the book and talking to you and then talking to some other people is that, you know, before you implement the system, you may be in a place where you don't know why you're not profitable. And the truth is, your profits are probably actually in there somewhere. You just need to mine it out by using this system.
Yep. Good point.
And I have no other questions. I mean, if anyone else has any questions or don't have any other questions, I would like to give Nadine the rest of her day.
I would really love to know, you guys, too, how, like, this is a slow process. Like, I've been doing this for a year now, okay? It's not an instant, well, it did actually make an instant, you know, made a huge difference instantly. But I would really like to know as well is how far you guys get along. So don't be afraid. Like, if you guys are at World Conference, make sure you're going to World Conference. It's going to be the biggest, most badass World Conference yet to date. So make sure that you guys are going. Come up to me and make sure that you tell me how far you guys got along, because, you know, I would love to know how successful you guys have been with it. Whether your operating expenses got to 68% or 65 or less, because that just shows how successful FBBC as a franchise is, right? So.
Yeah, I would love to hear about the people who implement here who are actually open for business to see how it actually transforms their finances. That would be really interesting to hear.
Cool.
Hey, Nadine, I just got home. I listened to you the whole way home. I greatly appreciate this.
Yes.
I literally was driving home listening to you. I wanted to throw one thing out. I wanted to say to Sarah Herder.
Redder.
Sorry, I saw the
She hung
H.
up though. She's gone.
All right. Well, so one thing I was thinking about, because Brunetta said, you know, we'd open for 7 months. And I think that your insistence on having people do this when they open is spot on.
Huge.
Cool.
So I'm thinking about, well, how do we implement that? Because we have money flowing out the door like water, right? So what I was thinking is that you should still do this. It makes perfect sense. And every penny that comes in, even if in your first month you make $100, you still set the habits, right? We're always talking about creating good habits.
Yeah.
But in your OpEx bank account, you put your startup money. So yes, at the beginning, you're going to be over 100% coming out of there, but you're still establishing the good habits of putting a percent in profit, putting up, 15%, whatever it is, of your income aside into a taxable account, and then 1% into profit. So yes, you'll be at negative with that operating expense bank account, but you put your seed money in there, you put whatever you're opening with, you put that in there, and then you still start from scratch and taking that 1% every single time. I really, really wish that we had done this from the start. We would be in a much better position.
I could have said that too after 9 years.
We're going to the bank today.
And I think that you, Nadine, this has been so awesome. You really should talk
Yes.
to Bedros and see if he'll let you present at World Conference, because there's a lot of people who could really use this. And Kwansu has been nice enough to put this together for a select group.
Thanks, Quan.
And the mastermind, I know that we are going to benefit from this, but and I know that they want to incorporate this into the Fit Body way.
Yeah.
So I think that you leading the spear of being the tip of the spear on this is above and beyond. Really, like I said, I really appreciate it. But
Yeah.
I'd love to see you present this at World Conference.
Awesome. Well, thanks.
Thank you.
Get some.
Yeah.
All right, awesome. I'll shut up now.
Okay. You.
All right, guys, profit first. Definitely get on that. I'm going to use it on, for my opening. I'm not open, as you know, and I'm definitely look at those guys. Nut jobs, both of them, for sure.
Profit first.
Coffee.
Yeah.
Um,
Quan, can I just say one more thing before everyone leaves? So what I really like too is to create and allow you guys to understand where we're going with this. This is just the tip of the iceberg, okay? So I told you where I'm going with year 2 is kind of, and it's on one of my slides, and understanding that cutting expenses even more now. But now I've been reading Clockwork that I've read. So this is by the same author, Clockwork. So I'll explain to you, once you start making a profit, then ultimately you want to make sure that you're clockwork your business to the point that, and again, I'm going to just show you this. Stephen Hadley has presented about clockwork in the mastermind group. It's been on my list to do for quite some time. And that's for where you guys, once you've mastered profit first, this is the next layer, is being able to first make sure that you guys are profiting. Once you guys have that, then making sure that you're not bottlenecking your business to the point that your business can run. A business is only a business if it can properly grow in revenue without you. How cool would that be? Like, obviously I love doing what we're doing, but I'm actually, my wife and I are expecting, we're at week 7 right now, which is super exciting. And so I want to make sure that once our due date is in June, that we're able to take some time back. And that's what Clockwork's all about, that I'm not, tied to every decision, is that my team can absolutely grow the business even without me. Like, how cool would that be? So that's where I'm heading. So I'll be asked to present at the mastermind again. And that's what I'm working on in the weeds right now. So.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. I hope you have a great weekend.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, congratulations. Wonderful news. And Nadine, thank you so much for this. Everybody appreciates it, and I appreciate you coming on. So, and hopefully people here take this advice and run with it.
Cool.
Thanks, Nadine.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
You too. Bye, guys.
Bye.